Greetings again everybody, and welcome back to Dark Souls 2 Crown of the Ivory King. Now, this time and in the next video as well, we will explore the entire area we've just explored in the past two videos again. But we'll also see new things. And we're not actually gonna see every little bit of this again, because it's not necessary. Things have changed, but, well, mostly it is just that our vision is much clearer now. And also all the ice has disappeared, so we can now open the treasure chests and access some parts that we just couldn't access before. But now we can. But that's not all. Now, first things first though. You might remember that little elevator I told you to remember. I hope you do, because I told you twice. It's right down there, and in the process of going through this area, we actually raised it, and it is still up. Sadly, again, we can't use it as a shortcut, because we can't call it back down, plus it's full of caskets, so there's not so much of a use anyway, but whatever. It grants us access to this treasure chest, and the more observant among you will have noticed this ladder here already. We get a pretty sweet set here. The Northwarder set looks exactly like what Sage Frake from Demon Souls is wearing. A little bit of a shout out back to Demon Souls. And then, well, those guys still seem to do nothing. Or do they now? Had I not retreated immediately, that person would have backstabbed me. While this is not normally fatal, because enemy backstabs very rarely actually are, this would have cost me a great deal of health. And now it's actually beneficial to kill them all. Previously they were just sitting around, but now they will, at one point or another, just wake up and do stuff. Now this room has been changed significantly. Previously there was ice everywhere, which gave us a lot of cover stuff to place to move around and all that jazz, but not anymore now, no. So the approach to this room is quite different. Out of all the rooms that changed, this is probably the one that changed the most. But it still plays very much the same. The biggest problem that comes with it is not the fact that you have less cover to work with, but that there is one of those retainers, let's call them that because their armor set is called that, that awaken randomly, sitting right at that fountain. And if you don't know that, she will backstab you. But we have now cleared most of that part. So you might remember those chests up on the roof of this building. Let's just go on ahead and, well, get it. But the way up is of course more dangerous this time around because, well, those guys. They are the only new enemy type that we have to face in these areas we've already explored. But technically they were there before as well. So you could argue that they're not new at all. Plus, you could have technically despawned them, I guess, if you went through this area a lot of times and actually killed them every single time. Another thing to take note of is that if you went through the entire area before without resting at a bonfire, all the enemies would still be dead and you'd have a much easier time to actually go through here, allowing you to pick up all the stuff that you previously just could not get. But now we actually can get everything in this area. And it's not just that the existing places we visited have changed. We actually can visit a couple new places. Some bigger, some smaller. Well, one bigger. We're going to visit the really big side area this time around. It technically is optional. The thing is, it's about as optional as driving a car up a mountain without any fuel. You could push it up, sure, but you'd have to be pretty much insane. The thing is that if we do these optional parts, the boss fight, the final boss fight, which we could actually go to right now if we felt like it, will be much easier. Because our goal is to save knights. Will help us in that battle. One is there by default, he's just hanging out near the entrance to the boss room. But we have to find the other three. Alsana has informed us of this. And, well, they have to be somewhere we haven't been to yet, so let's try to go that way. Because previously this entire tower here was frozen completely. And this might just, you know, bring us to a knight, which we need desperately. I like to imagine that our character here, Hiltrud, is actually a princess, so we can be a princess saving a knight. I find this idea to be somewhat amusing. Just a little bit of a reversal of the typical roles here. And again, we're not really dressed like a princess, but we have a pretty fancy set of armor on, so I guess that counts. Maybe we're just some kind of warrior princess. Not like Cena though. We got more style. Those enemies, though. Yeah, look at them. They are basically Sonic the Hedgehog, and the worst part about them is that if you get too close to them, they will damage you, and then this can happen. It's quite a bit too frustrating for my tastes, so I normally just take him out from a range with various spells and arrows and whatnot. Maybe even a crossbow if necessary, but I kind of prefer not going in too close, unless I have a weapon with really long range, like say a halberd or a spear or something along those lines. The Espada Repairer we're using should technically qualify, but since they are fairly short enemies, we have to thrust downward a little, which is a little bit iffy sometimes. So it's better to take a weapon that has a downward swing. Otherwise it just might not work out, because stabbing downward again, it sometimes works really well and sometimes not at all. Now this room is a little bit mean. We have all these pillars and more of those Sonics. But we can also use the pillars to our advantage, of course, because if you hide behind a pillar, they won't be able to roll at you. But if they roll past it, they might still graze you and damage you. They are kind of similar to the bone wheel skeletons from Dark Souls 1, but the bone wheels are easier to manage. The bone wheels you couldn't really block reliably, they'd go right through your block. They would just quickly drain your stamina and then your health. This is only true to a lesser extent here with those Sonic the Hedgehogs, so you could technically just block their attacks with a medium-sized shield. While in Dark Souls 1 you needed heavy armor to even withstand their roll attack, because, well, that just did less damage and less damage, and a heavy shield would be able to sometimes actually block their attacks. This time around, a medium shield will actually suffice. Most of the time anyway. And oh, look at that, a invader. It's of course an NPC. And it is quite fortunate that I managed to poison him before he even got to get remotely close to me. Though letting him heal was maybe not the smartest course of action. Other than that, though, this is one of the regular NPC invaders, nothing fancy. He just shows up and does his thing, and then you kill him, and you're probably a happier man afterwards, because you never have to deal with him again. Now, I killed one of those guys up there already, and I heavily recommend actually killing them before entering the room, because they can actually snipe you with their magic, and it can do quite a bit of a number on you, so you will want to avoid that as best as you can. Otherwise you will probably, you know, die. Because you can expect there to be many other threats down there, and being sniped while dealing with, say, a couple of the Sonics is probably not that good of an idea. In general, this is a problem with ranged enemies. When there's a large room, there's usually other things as well. And it's best to take them out before they can actually do anything to you. There's another one a little further in, I think, too, but right now he can't harm us. Man, I hate those. See, he damaged me, even though I didn't even let him attack, I just stabbed him. So over there is a pretty big gate, and that will be where we are headed. Yes, we're actually headed outside of this town. At least briefly, we will return, of course. Just let me tell you out of experience that it's a pretty good idea to clear that room before you do anything else. Because there's something coming up. I, of course, know things that you don't know yet, unless you've played the game already. In which case you probably know exactly what I'm alluding to. It's not that guy up there, though. So this is only the first part of what I consider to be a 3-part optional area. This, again, is quite a big one. It's as big, if not a little bigger, than most regular gameplay areas from the main game. And normally, in that little niche behind the chest would be an enemy, but he actually spotted us from up above and rolled downwards to, you know, screw with us a little bit. And you don't want to miss this building because there's of course a bonfire. Depending on how you're going, you might want to rest at it or not. I personally usually just light it up so I can respawn here should that become necessary for some reason. But progress actually lies here. Oh, look at that. A white phantom. Which we can lock onto. Did you know that there is a ring called the White Ring which allows red phantoms to appear as white phantoms? Or anyone to appear as white phantoms for that matter? Because that guy, he's someone we know. This is Maldron the Assassin, the best NPC phantom that this game has to offer, quite frankly. He's a little more annoying in this case though. But right now he's just dim-witted enough to misinterpret our, well, kind of aggressive advances. But once you actually manage to, you know, clue him in on the fact that you don't like him and that you already know that he's a dick, he will just run around back and forth. It's pretty annoying. He has like 3 spots where he can hide out in, and he will heal up there and possibly start throwing stuff like various throwables like urns and firebombs at you. Which, of course, is a good opportunity to attack him actually, because getting out the item and then, you know, throwing it at you takes a little bit of time. Yes, that's me cursing me out. This gesture is actually called pumped up, but it, to me, mostly actually looks like I'm cursing someone out, as in the get off my lawn type of way. But now we can proceed. Now it wouldn't be much of a problem to just rest at the bonfire and run down here, but we don't need to because we managed to do fairly well actually. Now these caverns here are fairly deceivingly empty, but don't be afraid to step on the ice. Nothing here actually breaks. This game isn't that much of a dick, but there's an old friend over there, in case you didn't notice. Now this guy is actually fairly simple. He's the same as, exactly the same as when we fought him last time when he was not white yet. This is basically an albino covetous demon. He might even have exactly the same amount of health, I don't even know. He certainly dies quickly enough for that. But the real dick move here is on New Game Plus. No, there's nothing dumb like two of them. There's just Red Phantom, Sonic the Hedgehogs coming right out of that little path we're gonna go to momentarily. The path leads to progress, as soon as you get close enough, and this makes this room really difficult. There's a bit of treasure here, but nothing that I value too much. But since there's a lot of stuff here, yeah, you could consider this to be worth it, to just kill another covetous demon, which is fairly simple anyway. Now those guys again, oh god. But you could see there that I blocked them and still managed to survive. You should survive being hit by them at all. Now, up there and to the right is progress. But before you head to progress, you might want to go straight ahead. Because this door leads straight back to this room. So now, if we were to die, tragically, we could just respawn at the bonfire and run down here, through this open door, and immediately go to this part. Which, in my opinion, is the most annoying part of this little side area. See, we have those golems there, a couple of them are already awake. And yes, they are hostile, they're not as helpful as the ones in Drangleic Castle, they actually do attack us. And if we kill one of those hedgehogs too close to one of them, well, too close to one of those that aren't awake yet, they will also awaken and we have to deal with them. But truth be told, those golems actually, they take a lot of abuse. And piercing weapons, which is what I'm using of course, don't seem to be too effective against those. I mean, they do the job, but it's not something I want to repeat several times. Because you will have noticed there's several golems, and several of them are already awake. But it's not too difficult to just not awaken the others by luring the hedgehogs away from them, so you don't have to kill them near them. And I'm glad that was not lethal. Alright, the rest of the room will work much the same way. So let's speed things up a little. Again, this isn't exactly my favorite room. It is one that I find to be most easily traversed by just sniping everything from a distance. The hedgehogs, the golems, the everything. It's not exactly one of my favorite pastimes, to be honest. And those golems have a weird type of resistance. I don't know if it even happens in this recording, but I was attacking one with dark magic, and suddenly he gained extra resistances to it, so I couldn't actually deal much damage with my previously actually established working mode of attack. But thankfully you can just run through this room. You can run through most rooms in this game, period. But this is one where I actually recommend it. Like, going through it once is fine, but other than that, it's just really not too interesting to go through several times. But hey, we are through now. And with that, we have reached the final part of this side area. We are now on the other side of that bridge. We started out right over there, but now we're here at the tower. And I'm just gonna say it right away, but one of my favorite moments of any Souls game is coming up very soon. Like, I don't want to lead too much, but this much I have to say. So here we have a little more Sonic the Hedgehogging. They are actually placed in a cruel manner because you can't really snipe them from here. The hill there is arranged in such a way that your arrows will just not hit them. But you can still use the terrain to your advantage. You know, they will roll at you. And if you place yourself correctly, you can just make them roll right into, well, their death by making them roll off the mountain. Certainly something you can do. And again, I swear you can backstab those guys. I'm just not doing it correctly. But you can. And yeah, again, I could just run past those if I felt like it. But as far as enemy types go, those are among my favorites of the DLC here. The DLCs in general don't have too inventive enemies. I mean, credit where credit is due. The Sonic the Hedgehog as an enemy type is pretty fucking awesome, but I don't like the way the enemy type works. Or rather, maybe it works just fine, I just don't like the way it's used. But then again, I'm not a game designer, I don't know how to fix things. Generally, I find those Sonics to be the most dangerous in the first instance they appear, where you have to deal with 3 of them at the same time immediately, in a space where it's fairly difficult to actually snipe them. Which is what I usually recommend against those, because, well, you know why. And that's a really nice view, just saying. And alright now. Do you know how snowballs work? I just love this part. But yeah, has been the final thing. We unlocked a shortcut by rolling a snowball down the mountain. And it became big enough to fill in a gap in a bridge that we previously couldn't cross. And here's what we came for. This is a Lois Knight. And he's now on our side. If we go to the boss chamber, he will actually be there and help us. But there's a total of 4 knights. Again, one of them will be there from the start. We just rescued a second one, so we will need to rescue 2 more. And those, of course, are actually somewhere back deeper inside Ilium Lois. So, all that's left to do now is to head back. But we'll do that next time. We've done enough for right now, at least. So, next time we will rescue the 2 remaining knights. See ya then.